Hi, I'm here to talk about the third and fourth Thor films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which I think are much better than the first two Thor films. Thor Ragnarok isn't a perfect film or anything, but I think that it really improved things for Thor. In the first two Thor films, I think that Thor does work pretty well as a protagonist, but I feel like his full potential hadn't been explored. And I think that Ragnarok really helped him stand out more as a character where he was more humorous. It felt like he had a more charismatic personality than he previously had, and he was able to really show off his comedic sense of presence in a really good way, and he was starting to become a lot of fun to watch, which I think was really good. And things got much better for the villain stuff. I think that Malekith was such a boring, forgettable villain, and Hela and the Grandmaster are much better villains than Malekith. Uh, uh, it's a lot of fun to see Kate Blanchett play Hela and Jeff Goldblum play the Grandmaster, and I think they really help elevate Ragnarok, and they feel like the type of villains that the Marvel Cinematic Universe had been needing. Villains that could be really over the top, not villains that are just a little bit snarky and have a few little bits of witty remarks and stuff like that. Villains that could be really over the top. Hella seems to be having so much fun at doing evil stuff, and she has such a fun presence to watch. And I think the film is cooler when she shows up, and the Grandmaster is really charming and entertaining. And I feel like there had been such a need for villains like that in Marvel Cinematic Universe films and superhero films in general. And it feels like the film has much more interesting looking visuals, that a lot of the creativity and feelings of comic book sort of stuff is really being explored. It's still far from a perfect Thor film. I think that a lot of the stuff with the Hulk isn't great. It felt like the start of Hulk being a really comedic character, which I don't think is the best direction to take the Hulk in. I feel like the Hulk is a more interesting character for drama and action reasons than comedic stuff. And even as far as the comedy goes, a lot of the jokes involving him aren't that funny. I'm not saying that all the jokes involving him fall flat, but I feel like a majority of them aren't that amusing. And I feel like Loki as a character was starting to get tiresome with, is he going to be a hero? Is he going to be a villain? I feel like they really needed to make up their mind what sort of direction you wanted to take that character in. And it felt like it got tiresome to see Loki constantly switch when it comes to his morality and what he's going to do. But it's still a really fun film that felt like one of the better Marvel Cinematic Universe films. And then there's Thor Love and Thunder. I think that Thor Love and Thunder is one of the least popular films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe films, but I really like it. It felt like the type of film that I would want in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because a problem I've had with the comedy in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that it feels like it plays things very safe, where characters aren't allowed to be too comedic, where they can have some snarky remarks and tiresome quips and stuff like that, but actually being really over the top, being really committed to being really funny felt like a thing that the Marvel Cinematic Universe wasn't doing. But Ragnarok started getting to some of the campy stuff, which I enjoyed. It felt like Love and Thunder was even more of that campy stuff, and I really enjoyed that. I think Love and Thunder has Thor at the most entertaining he's ever been, not just in his solo films, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in general. I think that Love and Thunder it has the best Thor stuff. He's hilarious. He's so over the top. He's a lot of fun to watch as a lead character. And while watching Love and Thunder, I started feeling like I was really caring about Thor. And for a long time, Thor felt like a character. Well, I guess I like him well enough, but not one of the big standouts. But in Love and Thunder, Thor started feeling like a standout character to me, and I really like that. It was a lot of fun to actually care about Thor and what he was going through. And Jane Foster became a more interesting character than she had been before, where she wasn't that great or well developed of a character in the first two Thor films, but she has a much more interesting storyline and a lot better uh, series of stuff to go through in Love and Thunder, which I really like. And Thor Love and Thunder is such an over the top film, so much comedic stuff happening, and I really enjoyed that. I think it was such a big step up for the Marvel Cinematic Universe's sense of fun. It was a big step up for Thor. It really felt like the character of Thor was finally being used to some of his best potential, and I really like that. And I like that Love and Thunder feels like it's more about having fun than connecting to other films, focusing on the lore, focusing on being super complicated and having a bunch of quips and all that other stuff. It felt like Love and Thunder was a really upbeat, charming film that had the most heart and humor of the Thor films, and one of the more heartfelt and entertaining Marvel Cinematic Universe films in general. So I think that Thor Love and Thunder has Thor at his big screen best. And feel free to let me know what you think of the third and fourth Thor films.